Okay, everybody gets one PowerPoint glitch to go. This is a chance to hear how components have used the web to move the strategic plan to meet their own planning needs. The gang that's sort of up here on the sides of the stage will join here. They are the component leaders who already kind of become our ambassadors for the weave. They've run it themselves. There's also a strategic directions group who've been directing this process over the past year, and this year's members are shown here. So there are even more people that we hope can tell you about the weave, their experiences of the weave and planning. So after this is over and you see anybody you recognize here, grab them and talk to them about it. This phase of the strategic planning was launched at Grassroots 2010, in the middle of that year's blizzard of the century. As it worked out, the transportation infrastructure gave us an extra day or two days here at the hotel, so we could convince components to make this process work. As a reminder of how we got here, though, and for those of you who are new to Grassroots this year, we began a strategic plan with this new vision statement, a vision that specifically addressed the value of design, something we heard from all of you. That vision is now driving positive change through the power of design. And each word was crafted in this with input from webinars and workshops with all of our membership. We then stepped ahead and redefined our existing mission statement. And here's the mission statement. To reaffirm our roles as a voice and a resource, both of those in service to society. Once we had gone through this process to address our vision and meet this mission, we ran a series of workshops and webinars with components throughout the course of the year to reaffirm and refine these three goals. These are goals that we felt could be common to AIA nationally and to all levels of components, and which can positively impact the members, the profession, and society. Once these goals were established, the focus then turned for us on creating a set of strategies to meet these goals. Rather than creating, as we've done in the past, 20 or 30, I think at one time 40 specific strategic initiatives, our approach this time was to just identify 4 critical strategic areas. And the key difference here is that the idea is all of these strategic areas impact all of our goals. We really want a network here. Ideally, the best, preferred, and most robust activities really should address multiple goals. So this is the chart now, as you see it here, that came to be called our shared framework, a framework for all the components and national to have in common. They also relate to the, these then are those four strategy areas. They also relate to the four portfolios of the vice presidents who are on the board. And with the recent realignment of headquarters by Paul Welsh, they also correspond to 4 senior vice president levels at the Institute. So there's full sort of volunteer side support and structural support. With this in place, it brings us to the challenge that was given out last year. Reach out to you, the components, to identify new and existing initiatives that meet your needs and really do this in a collective way, crowdsourcing it. These will then address each of these goals, and this becomes the matrix that we identified to ask you to essentially crowdsource the strategic plan. Because some of the graphic decisions made at the time in this particular graphic, this matrix quickly became nicknamed the Weave. And by having components fill out their own weave, as in this case, in filling in these little boxes, the idea was each of the members would get a snapshot of their component, a snapshot of their activities, and the rest of us would have a common framework, common terminology for sharing and comparing the best practices. This weave works at every scale. We think right now, and it's finding out that's true. Last year at Grassroots, we told you about 3 pilot programs we ran, and we purposely did it with national staff, a large staff component here in Washington, D.C., and a small unstaffed chapter at Grand Valley, Michigan. Since last year, we expanded that to include 24 what we call early adopters across the country. Some are regions, some are states, and some are individual components, large and small, And around the stage here are 17 of those early adopters. We're saying they wove. We had to invent this term. And as they wove, we realized not only did we discover best practices we could borrow, share, steal, but we heard that the process itself was an eye-opener. Team after team that did this used it differently. The process was differently, but everybody told us afterwards and thanked us that the activity itself was as valuable as what they learned and as the outcome. So that was a real surprise to us and a real benefit. So we're going to update you now, and I'll start by updating you on the process that took place here at National. Last June, we got together with the national staff, XCOM from CASE, and XCOM from the board to work together. We identified general planning principles, and we tried to focus on those planning principles that are common goals for all three groups. This was followed shortly later by the XCOM of the board and the senior staff getting together here in Washington and addressing each of the strategic areas. So we broke into groups with the responsibility of the vice presidents, both on staff and on the volunteer board, and focused those. Then in the fall, the full board got together to prioritize the principles, and this is in the boardroom down the hall at headquarters where we did exercises to set guidelines for national staff. To be a strategic board, we wanted to set guidelines, not sort of monkey in the busyness, and that became this first level of our national weave. I know it's always hard to read one of these things, but as you dig down in, they're a great resource. This board weave of principles was enthusiastically taken over by national staff, who went on and used it to create the 2011 National Operating Plan. This is actually a picture of the hallway on the third floor at headquarters, where staff created a weave of almost frightening detail. But it's amazing, and we're living by it. So now I'm going to let a few just others come up here from our local leaders and talk about their own weave experience, and we'll start with Boston.
Thank you, Peter. As a large chapter, we had an existing strategic plan, so we used the weave to translate our old and new efforts into a common new format. So far, we've focused only on our overall objectives, and we're using that as a tool in our search for a new executive director.
The Dayton's Weave exercise made us realize just how important those activities, which we already do, are to our members, while allowing us to try new ideas and even establish some longer-term goals.
Strategic planning through the Weave, the small all-volunteer chapter, helped us increase and inspire our local leadership involvement.
It was terrific to have standard format for tracking our initiatives and sharing, but still discover we could create a plan that was uniquely ours.
Aloha. In Honolulu, our weave exercise helped our chapter understand and balance the surprisingly wide range of activities we already offered, and to organize and, most importantly, prioritize what we wanted to do this year.
Our members were attracted to the weave because of its visual nature. It helped us to better understand our state component today and left us with a good feeling about our final product.
In Indianapolis, we appreciated the way the weave allowed us to create a real balance in what we were trying to accomplish, but be realistic about what we can get done.
Doing the weave helped Kentucky identify activities best done by our state, activities best performed by our local chapters, and those initiatives where we really needed to engage together.
In Northern Virginia, using the weave to identify our activities and actions in one place gave us all the members a real sense of pride in what we've done and a much better understanding of the range of involvement.
The weave was really a great process for all of us that participated at AI Ohio, and after focusing on the issues, we were able to create a wallet-sized print piece that we have used to share those results with all of our members.
Finally, a planning tool that appeals to architects. Everyone got the graphic layout immediately and enabled us to look at the whole range of our work.
As one of the first pilots, we benefited with the help of national staff, and we now have a very comprehensive understanding of all we're doing as a chapter.
I have to correct the slide. Pittsburgh is spelled with an H, but you probably already knew that because We are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Go Steelers. We did the weave early on, being number one as we are, without any outside facilitating. And I have to say, it was the most successful planning session we ever had, because we're number one.
Well, it's wonderful to be number one for a little while, but nothing lasts forever. And in Wisconsin, we had an annual planning retreat where we used the weave as a larger group with our state organization and all four components. It created the focus for a great and common process. And one last thing. 1, 2, 3. Go
Now that the weave has been completely co-opted, I want to point out I spelled Ann. Good job, Ann. Thanks, everybody. That was fast and furious, but we just wanted to quickly put some real faces on our leadership. So hunt these people down during the course of the day, and you can learn even more. Our hope is that this year everybody takes advantage of the weave as part of your own planning process. There is a toolkit online, you can see up here, where you can download instructions. It's at aia.org/SP Toolkit. There's a show for members, weave forms, and a few planning toys. Once you've done your weave, the important part of this slide is the little part you see in the corner here called Share Your Weave. This takes you to a slide where there's pictures of people doing their weaves. Mostly the early adopters who are up here are very happy guinea pigs. And on here, there's actually a link to these individual ones. There's a link to their weaves, the weave itself, an Excel spreadsheet at this point in time, and also the highlight sheets, which you've seen a little bit on screen. There were some out in the back of the room that provide a short overview of each component's experience. If they're already gone now, though, we didn't print too many for our green grassroots. But you can go online and get copies of those. So they're anecdotal. There is no one set of instructions for how to do a weave, but you can learn from each of us. Another way to learn more is to attend this afternoon's workshop. There's another section of the operations that goes into a more advanced, detailed portion of the weave. So that's it, and thank you very much for
Thank you, Peter. It's hard to imagine that in a little more than 3 months from now, many of us, I hope all of us, will be listening to Dixieland music while sipping Creole coffee and eating beignets in New Orleans Jackson Square. Please join me in welcoming President Clark Mannis and 2011 Convention Chair Marion Folks, FAIA, and Host Chapter Chair Cree Grier, FAIA, to fill us in on how plans are shaping up for our meeting next May in New Orleans.